It's the Kink Consultant Podcast, where we're turning up the heat on all things kink and dating, relationships, and pop culture. So close the door, plug in your headphones, and let's get down to it. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Kink Consultant. This week, I am joined by the very intimidating and extremely sexy Larah Sky. Welcome, Lara.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to see where this goes today.
Me too. So I'm going to give a brief introduction of how I came across Lara. It was about a year and a half ago. I was on TikTok and I had just started my own TikTok and I came across this fantastically beautiful, intelligent, and mind-fucking girl on Instagram. And that was Lara. And she unknowingly and unwittingly became my mentor, whether she realizes it or not, on TikTok because I was getting in trouble and I was messaging her. I was like, "You don't know me, you owe me nothing, but can you please tell me what to do?" And Lara told me, she said, "Argue every violation you get, fight for it, say this, this, and this," and got me out of many violations on TikTok. And that is where it all started.
You always gotta fight them. People get mad. They see you being hot and having fun online. They get mad for no reason.
And people get way angrier at you. I feel for those who are new to you, Lara, why don't you tell us a little bit about the type of content you put out there on TikTok? And we're going to get into your other content, but what's your TikTok content?
So basically, I just like to poke straight men, like angry straight white men, like there's not on purpose. It didn't start that way. I started off making like funny kink jokes and whatever. And I used to get so many hate comments. I used to get like thousands of hate comments per video. And
Yeah.
there's something so funny to me. And you get such an adrenaline rush when you get all the comments and all the likes and all the money's coming. And you're like, oh my God, I love this. So I do things to annoy them.
And you do that really well. But like the other thing you do really well is you fuck with people. Like,
A little bit.
yeah, I would say you are top notch at mindfuck, and that is my greatest area of interest. So, like, I think that's what first caught my eye with your videos, especially the ones where you spit into a glass of water or expel other liquid into a glass of water, whether that's just camera tricks or not. They are my favorite videos.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Or the ones where I spit off camera, people are like, please spit. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. You reminded me during lockdown, I had a video go viral. It had so many stitches. I'm like, you're thirsty. And then I spit in a glass of water and everyone's stitching it as I hand it off. And people were trying to buy it from me. People were like, can we do a pre-order? Can we like I had thousands of people messaging me being like, we want to buy your spit. And I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to sell my spit. I didn't know. Like, how do you do it?
I don't know. Well, didn't that girl sell all her bathwater once? But then she got the money
Yeah.
taken from her, I think. I think that
I think
PayPal closed her account
But how would you do it? You'd have to set up a website, pre-order all the bottles, spit for like days.
for days. Yeah, I mean, I think if you chewed gum, it might like speed up the process, but
Yeah, but
we
I don't
can
know, like I had so many people.
we can get into logistics later. At this point, I just want to make my first mention of Lara, Larh, Sky, SKY.com for hopefully in one day bottles of spit for purchase, among many other exciting things you have there right now.
I would love chastity cages. I would love to have my own brand of chastity cage, but that's
Yeah.
not happening. Before anyone asks, it's too difficult.
No. Lara, you are so young. I refuse to hear that it's too difficult. But
I would not sell anything I wasn't happy with, and I don't really want to go through the design process of measuring like thousands of men's penises.
I might volunteer as tribute. I'm not saying definitely, but I've done worse things. Okay, so chastity cages. Perfect segue. Can you tell me about the significance of the month of October in the work you do?
Yes, it's Locktober. Locked for the whole of October in your chastity cage. Some people have started Goontober, Cucktober, but Locktober is the big one. You do the whole month in a cage, or maybe not caged, maybe you just now and again
Put one
focusing,
on.
changing your life. And actually, I don't know if it helps. Because last year I did a nice one and a mean one. And the nice one, I was like, oh, take it off when you want. And the mean one, I was like, shut up, keep it on. And we had the
And
same failure rate. So I don't actually think it
I love
matters.
that you had a scientific approach and there was a failure rate involved. But for those who don't know, because I have a lot of listeners who are new to kink, a chastity cage is it is a cage, looks like one with a little lock. And specifically in this example, I think we're mostly talking about men putting this cage on their penis and locking it up so they cannot get hard, Is that a
normally.
good and they can pee through this and everything, right? Because that was my first question when I first heard of chastity. I was like, "So do you
Yeah.
pee through it?" Yeah,
It's
right?
like I quite often say it's nuanced. It depends how deep you're going into it. But yeah, you should have a cage that's comfortable to wear for like hours at a time or days at a time with a hole. I've not got one to show you, which is strange for me, but normally I just have them scattered around. Like
Just
every time I have workmen come in, I have to try and hide the cages.
I have that with implements. I usually have something lying around and I'm like, "Yes, something here doesn't belong to the normal eye."
But
It's
yeah.
okay. People can go look up chastity cages or they can go to your website and see everything you have on offer where I've seen you display
Yeah.
many
An important
cages.
point for chastity cages, do not lie about your size. If you're getting one, measure soft and don't get a big one because it will hurt.
It'll hurt?
Yeah, because if you get half hard, like if you get fully hard in it, okay, whatever. But most
Okay.
people aren't gonna get hard in something this big. So you're gonna have like a half erection and it's gonna hurt more than if you just can't get hard.
Oh, this is okay. I am learning so many things. I personally have never put someone in a cage. I've put someone in a humbler. Do you know what those are? I don't know what the
Yeah.
actual you can
I
let
think they just call it a humbler.
yeah, but never a cage. Okay. And the reason and Locktober is big. I have a lot of people message me about it, ask if I'm hosting anything, and I do send them your way because I am not actually hosting anything. But I have some questions about Locktober and chastity in general. My first one is, do women take part in Locktober? Because women can wear chastity
Women
cages,
can
well,
wear
belts.
chastity. Obviously, it's easier if you have a penis because it's got something to hold on to.
Yeah.
So if you wear a chastity belt, it obviously has to go around your waist.
Yes.
And between although you do get male chastity ones as well that are
But
kind of
go,
built up.
oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, normally, like, not as much. I think people tend to do more like the mental chastity
Oh,
or
okay.
like not to mention no fat because it's a toxic little place, but they tend to do that.
Wait, they tend to do
You don't
what?
know about
Oh,
no fat?
no, I do not.
They should really like dominatrixes, but they hate us. I
What
got
is it?
banned from their Reddit because I encouraged somebody. So basically, they're like, masturbation's evil, like, porn's evil. Don't touch yourself, you're gonna die. Sex is fine, but don't touch yourself, you're a loser. And these people just go like hardcore, no sex, no porn, no touching. They're like, I'm like 100 days free of porn. But it's
Wow.
like a toxic little, like, they hate women, they hate sex workers, they hate porn.
They
They
always
should
hate
like
women.
us. You know, they should want caged.
I know if anyone's gonna stay yeah, they should want cage to keep them in line, but I guess that takes away from their amazing free will that makes them so much better than
Yeah.
everybody else. How did you get banned? That's a very nice way to put it. I'd have to go check it out for myself, but how did you
So
get banned?
I said, "You're doing so well." I kept commenting on people's posts being like, "Yes, have you tried caging?" And I'm like, not even selling anything, just going, "You're doing so well. I'm so happy for you."
Were you the only woman in there?
Pretty much.
Okay. So
I
maybe
did make an alt account though, so I do still comment on people's posts being like, "Good luck."
no way. That's quite encouraging of you. I think that's benevolent, really, to be so
The
kind
cage
and
on men thing, I'm fully into it. It's not just a gimmick, it is a genuine,
it's
I think it helps.
what do you think it helps with?
Okay, so the way I look at it, you're moving from like short-term gratification into
Mhm.
like a long-term kind of like focus shift. So it's like having like sugar or coffee or something or like anything, it's like you're changing from like that instant hit, that instant rush to then being like, okay, maybe like tomorrow or maybe in a week. So it's like going on a diet, starting going to gym, but people find that it makes all the other things easier. Like planning becomes easier. Going to the gym, you can make more and more kind of like because you're changing one part of your life and putting focus on that, everything else follows. But it's like a
So
mind shift. It's like so you could just be not having sex, but it's like the change between being like, okay, I'm gonna jerk off today, and then you're like, actually, no, maybe I'll do it like next week, or maybe I'll plan something with my partner.
So it's not only the delayed gratification, but it's taking away the temptation of something that kind of serves as a distraction.
Yeah, exactly. But on that note, if you have a masturbation addiction, please do not do chastity hardcore because people do like touch themselves like 20 times a day, 30 times a day. And if you suddenly go to nothing, you're going to have a mental breakdown. which is not fun. Well, it's like going through withdrawals. So if you go for nothing and you put too much pressure, you're going to end up being really upset. And if you do touch yourself, you're going to feel the world crashing down.
This is
Yeah.
what I love about you, though. You can appear quite harsh. You are very gentle in your approach and actually very encouraging because that's such an ethical way to go about it. You're not like trying to get everyone on board. You're like, listen, this isn't for everyone. It's definitely not for you if I guess you have masturbation addiction. It's not
Yeah,
for
but you
you.
could do things to make it for you. You know, you could be like, I want to wear a cage for an hour. I talk about this on YouTube sometimes, but like I could have it on for 30 minutes. I could be like, okay, I normally touch myself like 4 times a day, only once today, like
Yeah.
off and on.
So you can sort of like
And
gently get yourself into it.
yeah, and also just if you do something, just be like, okay, reflect on it. I'm always like, reflect, think about why you did it, what triggered you. But basically, a lot of people don't really know how to like reflect and how to like pause. So it's like every day you take time to be like, was this difficult? Was I tempted? Like how long have I managed to have it on? Did I take it off? So it's like spending those 10 minutes to be like, right, let's see what happened. But yeah, it happens in different kinks. You probably know this, especially like feminization. People will buy all the dresses, all the toys, and then
Yep.
something will happen and they'll just throw everything out.
It does happen in a ton of kinks. And I talked about this on a recent podcast as well about spanking, where people go out and buy a bunch of porn around it. But then for spankos, it's like there's a shame aspect of it and you throw it all away and you're like, I'm never doing this again. But it's not how it works. If that's in you, it's really hard to just throw it away and pretend that it's not going to exist because it's going to come
Yeah,
back.
it will do. And you're gonna feel worse when you've thrown everything away. So I'm like, put it in a box, put it away, have a day or two. It's fine.
Do you have a lot of people come to you for advice like that?
I have people who think it's not going to happen to them. And I'll say to them, you are going to have a time that you have like a wobble or you run away. I call it running away. Some people call it purging. But I'm like, the best thing you can do is just put it out of sight because you're going to feel so much worse. Like, don't delete your accounts. Maybe
Yeah.
log out on your phone or whatever. Don't go into them. But you're going to feel worse. You're going to lose your community. You're going to lose all of your stuff that you've got. And you're going to come back and feel like the pressure from before. So that's why I try and say, don't wind yourself up about it. Just chill.
Yeah, that's actually such solid advice. Do not wind yourself up about it because I think what's actually happening is a shame spiral. They are
It
trying
is.
to distance themselves from something that it doesn't require distance from in the way of throwing it out. It's just a break. I think a lot of us suffer from this black and white thinking of it's all or nothing, and it doesn't need to be like that. It can be a
Yeah.
dabbling thing.
It makes my job easier as well if people are just more chill. Because I can tell when they're spiraling. I can tell when they're having a meltdown. I'm like, just chill. Honestly, go away for a day, which actually triggers some people. So I have to be like, you're not banned. You're not being told anything
Aw.
awful, but you're being told to go away and like just chill for a day. Take a step back. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't want to go back where you sometimes have to.
As in like take a step back and then come
Yeah,
into
like
it again.
especially to go back to feminization, but if you're somebody who's like bringing it into your everyday life, and I'll say like use lip balm to make your lips nice, use perfume. If someone smells your perfume and go, oh, that smells like what I wear, and then that does something in your head, like go back to just doing it at home. You don't
Yeah.
have to throw everything out.
I am realizing that feminization, I've done, I think, like one video on it before. For everyone who's new to it, can you kind of explain what feminization looks like in practice and then anything around the psychology of it?
Feminization, and a lot of people get confused between like sissification. So
Mm-hmm.
your feminization is becoming more feminine in the way that you present, because obviously you can be masculine or feminine, not to do with like gender or sexuality or anything, just the way you present.
Mm-hmm.
So like your makeup, your hair, your clothes, the things around you, like maybe you want more flowers, more art, more candles, because they're typically quite feminine. Maybe you want to watch like Bridget Jones. I don't know. You want to like listen to girly pop.
Yeah.
Whatever. So feminization is that, but a lot of people struggle with it because they have to feel like super manly and masculine. So then there's kind of this like hiding it, which also ups the kinkiness. So there's that. So some people, this is where it gets very nuanced. So even in like straight kink play, there's like a slut or kind of a, like a naughty side. So you
Yeah.
could be like free use, you could be a bimbo, you could be whatever. So sissification kind of goes into like that during a play session. So like
Like
very slutty being used.
the more
Um,
kinky side of it or
More kinky
sexualized
side.
side of it.
Yeah, definitely more sexualized. Tends to be
Mhm.
a lot more like having sex with men. It tends to be like men who are dressing up in, I wouldn't even say as women, which also gets confused because people will say, "Oh, you're making fun of women." I'm like, no, they're like bimbofying themselves. They're being overly sexual. So
Yeah.
that's like their thing, having
Yeah.
sex with like a very straight man normally, or like a big bear. But yeah, so it tends to be like that, but some people get very mad. And then, so I don't really talk about like trans people because I feel like your kink play doesn't really line up with like your gender and your sexuality almost.
I agree with that completely. It's a totally different thing, and
Yeah. But a
I
lot of
just
people do start off with sissification and then realize that they're a trans woman because it's like giving them that chance. They've known that they wanted to do something, and then they're like, this isn't for me, but I enjoy like the feminine aspect.
yeah, it
And
gives them an opportunity to dip their toe in the water maybe, and then they realize more about themselves.
but it gets more confusing for people who aren't in the scene when you could be a trans woman who enjoys being a sissy. You're like playing that role of like a man dressed up as a woman and almost being embarrassed for it. So
Yes,
there's like layers to it. So like you're a woman now in your everyday life, but you're playing back on that being very slutty, being like, yeah.
which if you're doing it as a woman, it really just falls under bimbofication
But you because it's a sissy, they're doing it more as like they're a woman, but they're a man being a
than
woman.
a woman. Yes, I thought
So it's
it
like
I'm with you on this. I'm just trying to also relate it to me. I'm like, so what would that be for me if I were trying to be
yeah, that would be
embarrassed
like
for being
bimbofication.
yeah, which is a lot of fun if you're in the mood for it. But I find that mentally it can be quite taxing as well because like my point here is that I feel for the people who go into a shame spiral because sometimes I understand how easy it is to go into that even as a woman who has done
So easy.
biblification.
And I don't even think it's just that. I think it's anything that pushes you and you don't always realize until you've done it.
Yes, that is the catch 22 of many of the kinky things out there. It's we don't even know what we're doing until we do it, and then this is how sometimes you develop or find new kinks that you have, and then
Yeah.
also realize, "Oh, maybe I went just beyond where I'm comfortable going."
Yeah, that definitely had a few. I can't even think of any, but there's sometimes you're doing something and you're like, no, not for me.
Do you feel that as a dom too, where you're just like sometimes it's like, "Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
really loving this
Sometimes I'm
right
like,
now."
no, I'm not okay with this. I mean, it depends what it is. Sometimes you'll kind of like go into an area that you're like, like when it becomes very like hardcore kink. Because
Hardcore kink, even I have that. Like, I have limits. Like, anything to do with poop is a personal limit of mine. Anything at all. Because I do like to pretend that I'm like, doesn't happen to me, not a pooper, but like that's how away from it I am. But like,
I have the intrusive thought that I always ask on streams.
can you ask it here?
So I found out recently, as in like the past year, that like toilet play is really common in real life sessions.
Yes, that's
Yep, okay. So if you're a sub who's just eating a dominatrix's poop, what do you do afterwards? Like, do you go home? Do you go to work? Do you
sorry.
wash your mouth? Do you brush your teeth? Do you leave it? Now you're thinking, now you're having the intrusive thoughts as well. Like, what do they do? I understand the session, but what do you do after?
I don't know how you don't get E. coli, but we're going to talk about poop now because every time I think about this, I remember one day I went to work at the dungeon and there were these two girls who were on shift and everyone was like, where are they? Where are they? And they had done a brown. That's what we called it. And in this brown, it got real messy, apparently. And they were in there for hours cleaning up, like, because there were wooden floors and they had to like get stuff out of
Oh my
they couldn't even show up to work the next day because they were still so sick and disgusted from what had happened. And I was thinking, you guys didn't even eat it. Like somebody else ingested that. That one does gross me out because I just don't think it's safe, which leads me into my next thing. Have you heard of the Dubai girls?
yeah, but I'm totally fine with that. Because
I'm
I
not,
think
no,
somebody who's like, because I used to work in nightlife and stuff and go to weird parties, and I'm like, that seems standard.
yeah,
We've all been to fetish parties. We're like,
it
there's
is.
somebody in a room doing that. Like, if you're getting paid, better.
I question, I'm like, it's a personal ick, but I'm like, no, I'm not shaming anyone from it. But I do have concerns about the health aspect of it because I don't think it's totally healthily safe. But my thing is, could I do it for $1 million? And I don't know. I'm not a definite
I
no.
It depends if I had to eat it or if it just had to go in my mouth.
Oh, you're to
Like, I
me.
was scared, like, I could have it on me. I could have it on my whole body, but I'm like, could I swallow it?
Oh, yeah, well, something I always said in the line of work that I did, shit happens. You just kinda get used to it. But could I have it in my mouth? No, I don't think so. That's a scary thought.
The thing is, like, I'll happily drink piss if somebody pays me enough money. I'm not against this.
I'm
Like, I'll
probably
leave it up
not.
on stream every so often, and I'll be like, "Somebody gives me $1,000, I'll drink it right now," and somebody will give me, like,
Maybe on my worst days.
$300.
But I always used to really enjoy peeing in people's mouths. I thought it was something that was
Yeah.
super fun to do, and it's not something until I went to the dungeon, I'd never even considered it. That place opened my mind and eyes and
Yeah.
but it's not
I
something I
love
do in my
it.
life. You right? It's fun.
See if you're at a bar and you take a pint glass, go to the toilet, fill it up, and make the sub drink it at the table.
A lot of the girls used to do that in session, and I just thought it was wild because I was so about consent and asking questions. And the truth is men are so much more or so much less concerned with consent. I think they're so excited to be told what to do. I'm not saying it's right. I often take them aside and I'm like, "No, no, no, you need to, like, have boundaries."
Oh,
And
yeah, the danger for man is, like, some men are crazy with, oh, honestly.
they really
They
are.
don't
They
have any
just
fear. They don't have rational
no.
fear that you should have with, like, giving a stranger access to your house while you're asleep.
Yeah, you're not even exaggerating. I know that they don't have fear because they've been raised in a world where fear has not been bred into them from day one. And I think that's the difference. Women are taught not just to fear, but how to protect themselves at every stage. So we just see ways to protect ourselves everywhere. And some of those ways are literally like, no, you can't just come into my house until I have properly vetted you.
But on that note, do you find this as well? Because men are always like, I'll come and clean your house. Do you not see how weird that is? I understand why they want to, but the amount of
Yes.
men online who are like, I really want to come to your house.
That's true. There was a time in New York where I did get paid a lot to have men come clean my house. I'm thinking back on this now and I'm like, you know what? There was a time where I was less risk averse as well and did let people come over and clean. And I'm thinking, did I vet them? But this is why I teach vetting now because I'm like, there were crazy things that I did.
Honestly, I used to just be like, oh, that sounds fun. Plus, the place that I worked, the foot place, used to just book people in.
Same as the dungeon.
And
Well,
the
you'd come
dungeons
in
used to
and
just book them.
yeah, and you'd be excited a client chose you from your picture at the dungeon
Yeah,
anyway.
and you'd
Yeah.
be like, "Oh my god, somebody's coming." And then if not, you just sit on your phone. You're like, "This is brilliant."
Yeah, it was actually really good. I loved my time working. So wait, you did footwork. What was that like? Because I do not have beautiful feet, but I just have a feeling you have gorgeous
So,
feet.
people look at my feet who aren't into feet and they're like, "Your feet are weird." So, I have, like, size 8 UK, so size 10 US feet, so, like, bigger than their face, and I have
Oh,
high arches, and I have spread out toes, but I have very narrow, slim feet, right? And people are like, "Your feet aren't that nice," and I'm like, "You don't like feet." But it's, like, the thing, it's, like, it covers your whole face, like, there's so much of them, you
I see.
know?
Well, you're tall too.
I
So,
am. I'm
uh,
5'10", which there's a running joke that I'm actually really short.
okay, but I do want to talk about feet a little bit more because I do have the honor of being on your close friends list. I don't know if that's a secret that you have a close friends list. So I
I
have
have a close friends list that I'm always like, "Ah, somebody's" pretty much that sound as well.
yeah,
That's
you
like the
do.
sound that my brain makes when it doesn't know what to do. It's just like,
But
"Ah."
if I see a Larah Sky green circle on Instagram, that is the first story I'm going to because I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be real good." So I have seen your feet many times, and I do know that they are beautiful, and I'm gonna plug your website one more time because 'cause I'm sure there's somewhere that they can find a way to go
Yeah.
larahsky.com.
Feet are more popular now though than they used to be.
Really?
I think, yeah, like probably like 2018 or something. They became quite mainstream.
Oh,
I mean,
I
they've
could
been
see
in the
that.
media for years, but now it's just like, when it starts off as a joke, this is when you know it's going mainstream. Like Chastity is a joke right now. It's going mainstream because people are like, ha ha ha, you in a cage. A few years ago, it was like, you ever lick somebody's toes? Do you know like that kind
Oh
of
god,
like in
yeah, I
films and
remember.
TV, like that kind of like jokey, like, oh, don't show the feet.
I think you're spot on though about how you know something's going to be mainstream. And I think you are 100% right about chastity as well, especially based on how you've talked about it. It sounds like a type of meditation, or it's a retreat almost. You know, those silent retreats where people go be quiet for a while?
Yeah.
It's a masturbation retreat where you go not retreating from masturbating. Because can you pull that book up again? What
My
is
little
that?
30 Days of Chastity. So it's not, well, it's on Etsy. It's the PDF version. This is a print, my proof.
Can you still buy the print or you can only buy the PDF
So
version?
I've not released a print yet because this is like my copy that I got sent before I sent it to publishers. But you
Very
can buy it
nice.
online because originally it was for using on like an iPad or something, so that you can reuse it. But I thought some people really like a physical copy.
Okay, I really like it. So what's it called?
30 Days of Chastity. There is a chastity book getting written as well. But for some reason, people who know me are like, oh, it'll be like 10 pages. No, if you knew me, you knew it would be like 200.
No, I
It's,
know you're
it's
thorough. There's nothing you do half-assed ever. So of course it is. So this is 30 days and they can technically, I guess they should have bought it at the start of Locktober, but really it's never too
It's
late
for
to start.
any time, to be honest. It's not a
Yeah.
Locktober thing. That's why I didn't make it 31 because I think
Okay.
31's an ugly number. But
Okay, we can talk
and
about that.
also because the way I'll see if I can find it, it messes up my little calendar. So this is like your chastity calendar. And the instruction is that you fill it in every day you're caged. But if you're caged for half a day, you just put half and you don't have to do it at once. It's like it could take you a year to do 30 days. So it's
Mm,
like you fill it in as you go. And if I had an extra day,
just would look
it wouldn't
terrible.
work.
It would,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ruin everything.
It would. I'm on board with this now. Personally, because October 31st is my favorite day of the year, Halloween, but I understand you're keeping away from the Locktober thing. It's just 30 days, could do it over a year. What's the longest you've ever had someone in chastity?
People ask me, so personally, off and on for about a year when I
Mhm.
had an in-person sub, but online, people will be caged for like 4 or 5 years. Like you hear them and they're like 10 years, 15 years, not constantly,
Yeah,
but
I
they'll
know.
have the cage on most days.
I feel
So
like that is just an entirely different way of life that a lot of people would benefit from if they were willing to commit to it, like you said.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like, but you can also use chastity for play, which you should maybe touch on a little bit as well. But when you're making the lifestyle change, like you will miss wearing it. It's like if you have a ring or a watch that you wear, you take it off and you're like, this is weird. Like you feel like something's missing. That's sort of like that weight that you're used to.
I know, yeah, well, like, when I wear rings, I like to play with them. I play with my necklace all the time. I think it's the antithesis of being locked to play with your cage, but yeah, it's probably like a comfort thing eventually.
Yeah, I notice a lot of people say, yeah, I don't feel confident without the cage on. You know, they feel like exposed and like they like feeling snug and protected.
That makes sense to me, and I think that the way you've described it of being more thoughtful about how they're gonna approach their day when they are gonna masturbate, and also just taking away that distraction of masturbating, allowing people to do
Mhm.
more. I have distractions in my life, I wish they could cage them away, but they're more up here than physical, so there's no, like, physical way to stop it. So, fair play to the people
Yeah.
taking part in Locktober. I have more questions. Now I have a comparison question. Okay, a lot of my clients or potential clients I have, they come to me and they talk about how they want to wear women's panties. These are men and they're like feeling a little
Mhm.
bit ashamed about it or embarrassed. But the one thing I say is, you truly do not understand how many people are into this or are out there wearing panties right now. There's nothing to be embarrassed about because it's actually quite common. And I tell a lot of people this. Sometimes I get women who call me because of their partners. They find out they're cross dressing. And I'm like, this is very common. It doesn't mean anything sinister. It's just that they like wearing the clothing sometimes. But what's your experience been with that? Do you think it's more common than people realize? Do you
I
have people come to you about it?
all the time, all the time. It's always this kind of hidden thing. So the thing that I don't like is when they're using their partner's underwear and toys. Because I'm like, firstly, hygiene. If you're using their toys, please don't. Please get your own. Like, get something that fits you. You know, like get your own stuff. I know part of it's like the secret. Oh, I'm wearing them. But if you're gonna wear them long term, but it's so
Or
hard to get nice men's underwear. Like, I think that's part of it as well. Like,
another
it's just
business idea
boring.
after you set up your spit factory business.
I know. I think it's called X dress. They do like underwear that fits penises, but it's like fancy. It's got
Mm,
frills and
it's lacy.
whatever. So I'm sure it's
Okay.
extra. But yeah, it's so common. It's so incredibly common. But the amount of men who are like, yeah, my girlfriend found it and I told her I was cheating. And I'm like, you've just ruined the relationship because you're terrified.
That is so sad. I mean, it's kind of funny that that is where they went, but, like, also, I think that if people started to talk more openly about it and understood how common it was, it would not be as much of a big deal.
But yeah, it's a communication thing. And I always say, I don't think you should be with someone that you can't talk to. I understand being apprehensive or scared or a bit worried about how they're going to react. But if you can't talk to them, what else are you not talking about?
I
So,
have heard you say that so many times, and It's still always such a mic drop because you're right. If like this doesn't stop at kink. It's there aren't people who are like, "Oh, I tell my wife everything except this." I think.
No,
It's because we're you automatically become used to filtering things or sugarcoating things or telling only 75% of the story. And I think that's easier to seep into other parts of your life too. But it's
yeah.
hard as well when there's a fear of judgment. So sometimes it's the balancing act. Gonna say that's where I come in as a sex and relationship coach, sometimes to sort of smooth that over and make that conversation happen a little bit easier. But ultimately, I agree. You shouldn't be with someone who you can't talk to.
It's just not a healthy way to be. And especially if you're freshly in a relationship or looking for one and people say, "Oh, how do I tell someone?" I'm like, maybe not straight away, maybe not on the first date, but definitely before you start like properly dating, I would say.
I think so. When I tell people about my kinks, I tell them on the first date or even beforehand. I try it.
Like a little bit,
Yeah.
drop them in easy. Like,
Yeah, I have zero chill, but you're right. I do think that that is a great option. And I usually work with people to figure out where they are in their journey and whether or not it's something to bring up at first. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. It's kind of dependent on what it is. But
yeah,
yeah, you also don't want to come across as someone with a one track mind with only an interest in whatever your kink is, because that
yeah.
it's reductive of who you are as a person and how you'd show up in a relationship.
Because I know that quite often, just when I meet people and we're friendly, like if we really get on, we'll start talking about things anyway. Like you can tell there's like a kink sense that you have, isn't there? Like you just
Oh,
mention something and they're like, oh yeah, and you're like I just know. Or I was at a dinner and it was like, so my friend's daughter, who's like a little bit younger than me, but anyway, her like was it her boyfriend or her that went like good boy or good girl when they passed over the plate, and I was
yeah.
just like, "Oh my goodness, we know what's happened here."
Yeah.
It's sometimes just little things like that, or you see people out shopping and the man's like walking 5 steps behind with all the bags, and
Yes.
you're like, "Protocol."
It you do start noticing these things in and I almost have a Rolodex in my head of different things I've seen in my life that I've like clocked away that no one else has picked up on, but I'm like, no, that was definitely they are in a dynamic or something is happening right
Yeah,
now.
or when you have to explain to people, "No, that's a kink thing." It's fine.
Yeah.
Especially on TikTok, that one that was the series, which is like, "Is it a kink?" And it's like, "Yeah."
Any of those hack videos where it was just someone's feet being pushed into something or
Yeah.
anything to
Or
do with
like putting
food.
on the layers of clothes, that's a kink.
I know about sweater porn, but
I mean,
what
that's one kind of. So basically, it's like putting lots of layers on so that you're like in a ball and then you kind
oh,
of roll about.
oh, okay. No, this one
It's
is
it's
semi
kind
new to
of
me.
niche, but it's almost like inflation. It reminds me of like the balloon fetish where people
Yeah.
like to imagine themselves being blown out and expanded. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the right word, but it's like layers. Because I used to get somebody bought a lot of customs from me. They liked watching people put on layers of clothes and then go on a duvet. So there was more layers.
Oh, okay. That like, none of that is
It's so
weird, but
innocent.
so innocent, and also it just sort of like I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds I could see how that would be
I liked it.
yeah, I could get down with that." I guess I hate asking this question, but now I'm curious. You've piqued my interest now. What's the most interesting thing you've ever been asked for that you feel comfortable sharing?
I don't know, like, every so often, I just have something I'm like, "Oh, that makes total sense." Like, I really love there's a guy so I do cam shows with him, and he likes to imagine that he's a spaceman, and he's in a spacesuit, and it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's about to explode. But I
Oh,
have to blow into it, I have to go,
because you're blowing it up. You're the
I'm
one
blowing it up, but, like, the machine that gives him oxygen's malfunctioning, and he's in space, and he's about to explode.
I love that. How does it
And it's getting
end?
tighter, and he can't move his arms. I love
Oh.
it, honestly. Every time he turns up, I'm like, "It's you."
There are those people who just really spark the imagination, and you're like, okay, let's go. My favorite type is the one who we get to go on a journey together. That's going on a journey. I mean, you're in space, blowing their
Yeah.
spacesuit up.
Or I quite like the giant one. Zero was quite fun.
I've been a giantess a lot. Have you seen the TikTok videos of, well, like the squashing men ones? Those ones creep me out. And I don't know. I think it's because people draw on little cartoons and the sound is there. And I'm
Yeah,
like, of all the stuff they block and people get in trouble for posting.
honestly, my A to Z of kink thing on YouTube, I got to G for giants. I've been busy with other things, but I filmed it and I kept going off on a tangent because I was like, there's so many different ways you can be a giant.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I've been a giant in many ways myself, even at my short stature of 5'5", but you're an actual giant and
I
5'10".
kept trying to explain it though, because I was like, "Is it scary? Is it sexy? Like, did you drink a potion? Is it just like an evil giant gonna crush the city?"
Yeah, there are many options. I've always just naturally been a giant. Like, when I show up as a
But how
giant,
big of
that's
a giant are you? Like, are you just a tall person? Are you like 6'6",
20
which could happen, and they're like 5 foot tall, or are you like 20 foot tall?
I'm 20 feet tall. Yeah, that's my alter height is being 20 feet tall.
How small are they? Like, are they?
Oh,
Do you keep them as a pet? Do you try and squish them? Do you
okay.
squish them but they can't die?
Well, I'm not a squisher, dire person. That's probably why I get creeped out by the TikTok videos personally,
Do
because
you
I'm like,
eat them?
no, I spank them because that's my big fetish. Which remember, do you remember Rammstein's video for I don't remember the song, but it's Snow White and she's a giant and they're little dwarfs and she spanks one of them.
People have sent me that and been like, "This is where the kink started."
But is it where it started or is it where they discovered that they were into this?
And like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is a really big one.
That had never occurred to
And
me
the
because
borrowers.
the what?
The borrowers.
The
Like, where
borrowers?
they run around in a house and they're like
I
stealing like little things.
and they're little people, right?
Yeah, they're little people and everyone's
I
just normal sizes.
I remember this, but I'm trying to think because I grew up in Ireland, I experienced this a lot where people are like, "Oh, do you remember this?" And I'm like, "No, that was an American thing. I was in Ireland when this happened." I'm like, "Is The Borrower an English movie? The Borrower is an English
It
movie?"
might be.
I don't, because I'm like, I haven't heard anyone talk about that in years. But anyway, so
I
that
don't know.
that turns people on. Are you Googling it for us?
I am. Oh, it must be because it's got British actors in it. We're gonna go for it's British. It doesn't say it's British, but I'm going for that.
Yeah, I think it might be.
But Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is a big one. And like the cereal thing, I don't know if that's from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but
It
being
is.
on the spoon,
Yeah. Oh,
like
I could
that's
see how
really
that
popular.
That match mixes a lot of things up. I'm obsessed with being tiny, but not like that. I just like really giant things, and it is not a kink at all. I would like to create a room in a future house though with oversized things, like an oversized spoon and an oversized lamp. And who knows, maybe when I get into that setting, maybe a kink will appear. I mean,
Yeah, my friend's like the opposite. He's really tall, but he likes tiny miniature things. So he's got like tiny little frying pans and tiny little forks and things.
those things are really cute too. But I see that makes sense because he's really tall.
Yeah, so he has little things, little dogs, little things.
Okay, we're sort of ramping up on time now, and I
Okay.
have some questions. In your personal life, are you also a dom? Do you hope to end up in a relationship where you in a female-led relationship?
So I'm a princess. I'm like a switch, technically, but I don't care as long as I'm a princess. As long as you're doing things for me, I don't care if you're dominant or submissive, you're doing it for me. Like, I am number one, I'm a princess, I get this, I get that, I do nothing.
Ah, this is where we relate. Your fellow royalty. Now I get
Yeah.
it. I am also a princess, and I can relate to that a lot. As long as you're doing something for me, that's just the natural order of things.
You can be dominant, you can tell me what to wear, where to go, you can book everything, or I can tell you to book everything.
Yeah, these are your two
Keep on
options.
booking it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, great. Are you seeing anybody?
No, I am not.
Okay, so
But
you are
that's mainly because I work so much.
you do work a lot. You are constantly just I gather that from your Instagram, which if anyone isn't already also following on Instagram and TikTok, Lara, what's your Instagrams and TikToks do have to
Larah Sky
change.
69.
Lara Sky 69 on both?
Well, it was.
Yeah, exactly.
I have about a million different TikToks, so it's a bit hard to tell for scammers. Sometimes people are like, "How do I know?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna message you." That's the best way to tell.
You bring up a really solid point that I think we just need to take a minute to discuss. An online Dom who is serious is not going to spend her time proactively reaching out to you, right? Like, if
Yeah, like, I struggle to keep up with my messages on my fan site. It's like, not to brag, but, like, I have a lot of messages. You know, like, I could log in and have, like, 100 messages. So, that's stressful enough, and they're paying to talk to me. So, like, if you're trying to message me for free, well, for a start, I might answer you if you so if you're gonna message me and you have a question, make it like, "Hi, question, this is what I want." And that is the only way that you will ever get an answer, as if it's
that's
very straightforward. Not a hi. Make it
no.
simple, concise. I can read it, not a big paragraph, just like a little thing. And if I see it and answer it, fine.
Yeah, you want a
But
straightforward nugget question.
yeah, but
Okay.
I'm not messaging people. I'm not being like, "Oh my god, you follow me. You're the special chosen one.
I know. Ugh, I
Message
know.
me on Telegram."
Yeah.
Or is it Zango?
I think it is Zengo, but I actually don't know, but I get Telegram a lot. Yes, I just think it's really important. I need to make a video about this because you've made videos about this. No one is proactively reaching out to you. And if they are, it's more than likely a scam and it's not the person. There's one person on Instagram and he has been scammed multiple times by maybe the same woman and he's always sending me photos of her. And what gets me is this woman is at least 10 to 15 years older and she's Asian and I am not Asian. And she is sending him photos saying, "It's me, the kink consultant." And I'm like, "This is so obviously not me. Thank you for sharing. Please stop sending her money."
I think some people like it. That's a whole other fetish that we could go into. But the scammers are getting smarter. So what they'll do is they'll send it to a legitimate profile and say, "This is my real Twitter," right? But if they
Yeah.
send you my real profile, go to an 18 plus site. Or if I'm on a live stream, come and talk to me there.
Yeah. Like
Just
verify in some way, shape, or form. But you're right. I do
yeah.
think it is a fetish or it's something that intrigues people being scammed a little bit because I think that the reason maybe this person keeps coming back and showing me is because he's excited that he's
Yeah, I
on this
think if he's been
rigmarole,
scammed more than once, I think he likes it.
which is
I'm the
probably
same
gonna
person.
have to be a discussion for another time. I have many stories like that of, yeah, if you're being scammed more than once, that might be a you thing and you're into it.
But yeah, me always working. But yeah, I don't have time. I don't know. People think I have a team. And I'm like, I have an admin assistant who like work a few hours a week. Like she has her own life. Like she's not like she's just a friend who helps me.
And because the work you do, it's not really like you can outsource it. You are
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
provider.
Like I can have someone upload videos. I can have someone help me edit maybe. I
Yeah.
can, like that's fine. But at a certain point, like nobody else can make the videos, nobody else can do the photos, nobody else can stream. So
Yeah, no, that's the thing. You can't put there's no figurehead. You are, and your mind is what's doing it. Your body and mind.
I just, the thing is about dating somebody, I always think you get to the end of a work day and then the idea of having to go and be nice to somebody, I was like, I couldn't. I was like, I would still be mean.
But like maybe that's healthy for you.
Yeah. No, like I have friends and stuff. Obviously, I go out and about, but like
Yeah.
the idea of like organizing, it's like, I'd rather just sleep.
Well, you work so much. That's why you would rather sleep. But yeah, I think that there are certain people, and there are people out there who love it. But yes, I know you are a well adjusted human who has friends and you have the
I feel like
ability.
I always need to say that. I'm like, I make a joke that I don't leave my house. I do leave my house.
Us loyal followers know you leave your house and have a life.
Occasionally, I just don't post photos outside of my house normally. So people are just like, "You do," but that's a safety thing. But like
I
people
was
like,
gonna
"What?"
say, I need to be safer about that too, because I'll be on a walk that I do every single day, and I'll be like, hey, like if anyone really cared, they'd figure it out. But
Yeah,
different
definitely.
worlds. Okay. What advice, if any, do you have to give to someone who's interested in caging, feminization, sissification, exploring their kinks?
I think first work out what you're into. It doesn't have to be exact, but just write down a couple bullet points and then go and research it. And like actually like there's so much information, there's so many sites. There's my YouTube, which isn't exhaustive. It's like my opinion, but Reddit's a really good place. It can be a little bit toxic, obviously, but there's so many different people there, so many like different places. A lot of the websites as well will have their own blogs. But I
Yeah.
think just work out why you want to do it is probably more important. So work out, okay, I want to be caged. Why do I want to be caged? Like, what
What's
do I
the
want to get?
appeal?
Do I have
Yeah.
a partner? Like, do I want to take them on the caging journey? Which I would recommend to do. If you have a partner, be like, hey, I'm interested in different kinks. Could we sit down and chat? And, like, I'm interested in this. And if they're not, that's fine.
I agree. I think doing something like that in secret is a recipe for disaster because then it becomes a shameful thing that you associate with keeping hidden. And you don't want to keep
Mhm.
something hidden from your partner. I'm all about open and honest communication and
Yeah.
authenticity. And I think one of the only ways to be authentic is to share that it's something you're doing.
Yeah, and I think as well with your partner, you have to accept that they're not going to want everything you do, and it's not going to be perfect because people have this fantasy like we're gonna do this fetish and it's how I want in my head. Like it's not gonna happen exactly. But if your
No.
partner doesn't like it, you should be having conversations like, are you okay with me doing it on my own or with somebody else? And the same for them. Like they should be able to do things that they want.
That is great advice. We're all sold a fantasy of you're going to find the perfect person, the soulmate who's interested in everything you're into and everything's going to work out. And that is not the reality, or it's rarely the reality. So you have people who think, well, if it's not that, what am I waiting for? What am I trying to do? Or maybe it's wrong. And that's not the case. You got to have the conversation. Well, Larah Sky, thank you so much. You can find Larah Sky at larahsky.com, larhsky.com. And I encourage you to, at minimum, go to her site and go down the exciting rabbit hole that is larahsky.com. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I'm really glad we could get this on the books. It has been such a pleasure, and I hope to have you on again in the future.
I hope so. We can go on a little deep dive into something.
Yeah, I would love that. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekinkconsultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.